And for more on the CELAC Summit and its importance for Latin American and Caribbean nations, I'm joined by Eric Farnsworth, Vice President for the Council of the Americas. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We saw Cuban President Raul Castro there in Costa Rica. How do you think the other CELAC countries feel now that there is a deal working between Cuba and the United States, or working to normalize relations?
I think for the most part, they're quite pleased with it. It's been a talking point of many countries in the Western Hemisphere for some time. And I think this changes the conversation, at least in the near term, to see how it plays out. But I think broadly speaking, most leaders have received this news very favorably.
Even the ones that were not so friendly toward the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, extreme poverty is one of the main issues that will be discussed during this year's summit. What are some of the other items, some of the other matters that you think will get a lot of attention, or probably should get a lot of attention?
Well, extreme poverty is a perennial issue, certainly for the Western Hemisphere. Over the last decade, we've actually seen millions of people come out of extreme poverty and join the middle class. That's the good news. The bad news is that in 2015, as economies began to slow, in some cases like Venezuela quite dramatically, you do have the possibility that some of these new entrants into the middle classes could actually slip back into the lower classes. So there's a little bit of economic fear that's beginning to seep into the region. That could have political repercussions. The fact of the matter is, I think that's going to be a question that the leaders will be trying to discuss in quite direct ways. How do you regenerate economic growth? What are the engines of growth? What can we do to really maintain those gains that have been accruing over the past decade? It's a really important question.
And a lot of those leaders are now entering a new term in office. They've been reelected. You know, a lot of the what we've seen just today, the Costa Rican president referencing China. CELAC had a forum in China just a few weeks ago. Do you think what was discussed there will be built upon here in Costa Rica?
Well, I think so. What we're seeing in the CELAC process is a process. It's very recent. It only began in 2011, and this is the third summit now. And so it's very recent, but we're seeing each meeting is building sequentially. The meeting that just recently happened in China in January, I think, clearly changed the dynamic, because it really put the region on notice that China is a long-term player in the Western Hemisphere. And so I think that news was welcomed by many in Latin America. At the same time, it does have some implications, and I think the question will be now, where do we go from here?
United States and Canada not a part of CELAC, but of course, you know, we have the Summit of the Americas coming up in April that we've been talking about looking toward. How difficult is it to focus on certain goals of one bloc when your country also belongs to another bloc, and there's just bits and pieces of the region, and you all have different focuses, different goals? How does anything get accomplished?
Well, this is one of the criticisms, which is to say, you know, it's better when we're all part of the same institutions and the same groups and working in the same direction, and subdividing any region, whether it's Latin America or Africa or Asia or what have you, some people would say is not the right approach. You will have the Summit of the Americas in April. Canada and the United States will be part of that. But what we're seeing in the CELAC process is separate meetings with China, separate meetings with Europe, separate meetings now with North America. So it's really a regional approach that they're taking. And I think the question that you raise is a very good one. The answer is we don't know. In terms of how they're working with these other regions, and can those separate efforts be brought together for the good of the people of Latin America and the Caribbean? I think that's an open question.
All right. Eric Farnsworth, as always, we appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for joining us.